Now, Sports Talk with Brodes. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. The Sixers take care of business, and they continue to stack wins without Joel Embiid. And it wasn't only just Joel Embiid in this game that was unavailable. We knew Seth Curry was going to miss some time as well, but the late scratch of Ben Simmons definitely threw me in for a loop, and I'm sure threw the team in for a loop, but they still went out there and did what they needed to do. They dominated a team that absolutely blows defensively. This Kings team, they're not just bad. Bad doesn't do it justice. I don't know what word to use to describe their defense, but they don't play any, and it's one of the worst that I've seen in the history of basketball. I swear to God, it's that putrid, where you allow 129 points to this team without their three starting players. That's really hard to do. How the hell did the Boston Celtics really lose to this team? That's an embarrassment. It really is. That just shows you the dysfunction of where the Boston Celtics really are. They're 20-21 right now in the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. That's how much they have fallen off, and that's how much they can't find their rhythm. While the Sixers, on the other hand, are rolling and rolling beautifully, and they're stacking together important wins, and Tobias Harris is really stepping up and being that leader, and he stated this after the game. This is Tobias Harris on the team's mentality and culture, discussing their ability to persevere while starters are out. I take that stuff personally when people say we can't win without those guys, and he has taken such an elite step to his game. He was magnificent. It all started with Danny Green in the first quarter. He was stealing basketballs out of the inbounds. He was making plays where he gets the ball. He's throwing an alley-oop to Matisse Thybulle for a big slam. He's hitting threes. There's nothing better to me when Danny Green is splashing threes. Nothing but net. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. That's the sound of it just hitting the net. Probably a horrendous attempt by me, but you know what I'm saying. It's so beautiful when Danny Green gets going. I love it too because I can't stand how much people hate on Danny Green. He has such an important role to this team professionally. When he spaces the floor and hits the shot like he did tonight, it's magnificent. But if I'm going to ask this question about Shake Milton, I guess it applies to Danny Green as well. It has to keep it honest with you. It has to. But when Shake Milton has such a great night, and he did it early, he had to earn that flow. He had to figure out that rhythm. He started out a mess. Let's be realistic. He couldn't find his shot at all, and then he got going, and he was awesome. And I asked the question, is this a product of the Kings' defense, or is this Shake Milton figuring it out? Now, here's the thing. I don't care how it comes. He needs to become a better version of himself. So if the first game to start that spark is because the Kings' defense is so embarrassing, I don't care. I really don't. I don't care how it happens. It has to happen. You need to get an unbelievable version of Shake Milton. Now this, well, guess what? He's not going to be in the starting rotation when everybody's healthy, and he's not going to have such a big role like he did tonight. So you don't need this level of production, but you got to get a more efficient version of Shake Milton. And is this the start of that happening, or is this going to happen against the Kings, against the Wizards, against teams that have no idea what defending any player is? And that's why they explode the way that they do. That's why they're able to get going and to knock down that mid-range game and to get to certain areas on the floor, because the Kings are unaware of putting the clamps down, and they're unaware of doing anything effort-wise on the defense. I'm very proud of this team, though, for them to put their head down and explode, score 42 points in the first quarter, and set the tone. And from there, it was all Sixers. There was never really a doubt. They did put Tobias in at the end. Was that really because they were scared of the Kings coming back, or was that a, hey, let's try and get Tobias Harris a triple-double? Because I thought there was some of that involved too. And I was hoping during the back stretch where he kept getting the ball in his hands and passing it to Matisse in the corner, but he wasn't open. He'd get the ball back and tried to pass it back to Matisse. Shoot the ball. Shoot it. You know he's close to his first ever triple-double. I'm just having fun with it, though. But yeah, I mean, realistically, though, when you are out there, you know there's going to be plays ran or try to run the damn play. If Dwight Howard's going to set a pick, roll to the basket so he can try and get that alley-oop pass or something, or that bounce pass from Tobias to get him that triple-double. It seemed nobody was doing the right things to at least give him the best opportunity to land it. But Tobias was really awesome. And speaking of really awesome, I do want to say this real quickly. Today was my first day on 97.5 The Fanatic. I hosted from 3 to 6 p.m. And I just want to thank everybody for all the support. There were a lot of people that called in and said, Brodes, I've been listening to you forever and I've been watching you on YouTube for years, and people were tweeting out. And there was just so much support from everybody who has been embracing this journey that I've been on for quite some time here with Sports Talk with Brodes. So I just want to send my love to you and thank you so much for all of the love and all of the support. Really, it really is sometimes so surreal. It's hard to even imagine how much passion and how many hours people tune in and react to the post-game reactions. It means the world to me, and for me to have an opportunity to host on 97.5 The Fanatic and for everyone to jump on board and support there as well, it's so heartwarming. And if you are listening to this before Sunday at 3 o'clock, I will be hosting Sunday from 3 to 6 p.m. on 97.5 The Fanatic as well. So just something that if you missed it on Saturday, you have the possibility of tuning in on Sunday. And from there, I will keep everybody involved in what is going to happen in the future for future shows and all. But my heart is just filled with love for you and everybody who chimes in and listens and calls in and everything. So thank you. And thank you, Sixers, really. I kind of wanted to go through players individually and kind of touch on them. And we started with Danny Green, of course. Just the fact they scored 129 points is so insane. It really did spark from Danny Green's explosiveness and for him drilling 3 after 3. Every time he's running up the floor, 3 ball. Here he goes, running up the floor, 3 ball. Okay, here's an alley-oop pass. How about that facilitation out of the professional veteran Danny Green? Great finish by Matisse Thybulle as well. And Matisse, you saw his defense on display, which we see every night. Apparently, Inspector Gadget, long arms. That's what Doc Rivers said after the game, complimented him, Inspector Gadget. De'Aaron Fox really couldn't get things going. He took a lot of shots for his points. It wasn't very efficient whatsoever. And the last time this team played the Sixers, you saw Ben Simmons try to defend De'Aaron Fox, and De'Aaron is so damn explosive, and he's so fantastic, and the way he gets to the rim, he's so fast. That's a hard matchup for a 6'10 guy like Ben Simmons. You throw Matisse on his ass, and he had no business getting anything open. He had to work and grind to try and get any sort of good look at the rim or any sort of good look just shooting the basketball in general. Matisse Thybulle was swarming him. You saw what he excels at so much. He had this great play defensively where he blocked the ball, saves it from going out of bounds, one of those awesome saves, and there goes the Sixers the other way. That's the type of energy that's just fantastic, along with Dwight Howard, who got himself another double-double. But Dwight is so funny because he gives you these great effort plays or grab offensive rebounds, but he recorded how many basket interference calls, and how about that play late in the fourth quarter where there was some action ran towards was it by the right side of the court? Action ran to him. He was about in the paint area. He tries to throw it to Danny Green in the far corner. Was it Danny Green? I'm messing up all these people because now I'm thinking it was so late into the fourth quarter. It probably wasn't Danny Green. Regardless, doesn't matter who he was trying to pass it to. 8 feet high, over the bench, all the way over. Would have hit probably someone drinking their beer if there were people in the stands in a normal time. But Dwight Howard, for all the great energy plays he makes, and for screaming on the bench trying to get those Frosties and those fries, he gives you some, I'm not going to say stupidity, but it's very wild. You just don't know what you're going to get from Dwight Howard. It's 10,000 basket interference calls. It's throwing the ball 8,000 feet high from someone who's wide open in the corner. But then there's so much magnificent stuff that goes out there. He's producing. He's giving you points. This is a great ride for Dwight Howard, and I really hope that this continues because you did see an uglier stretch out of him, and the fact that it seems like he found a new identity once more, and maybe it's just the fact that it's the fans, because as an energy guy, someone who lived and thrived off being an energy guy in a locker room, there's something to be said about those fans almost helping you even more. Yes, his job was to do it when it was a silent arena, but now that you have the fans involved and you point at them, you raise the roof a little bit, maybe you'll flex once or twice, or just laughing. If there's a call that you don't agree with, you have the basketball in your hands, you laugh, and then the fan joins in and shows either their frustration or boos the refs, whatever. His presence as a whole with the fans has really elevated what we've seen out of Dwight Howard, and this needs to continue because it's incredible, one, it's highly entertaining, two, and it's extremely beneficial to how this team continues to run and operate without the big man in Joel Embiid, and Tony Bradley too, by the way. It's not just Dwight Howard, it's Tony Bradley who's establishing himself and where he wants to be, and he's getting rewarded for it as well. Hey, I want to be here. Give me the basketball. How many times did I say that this year, by the way, of someone establishing where they want to be and demanding the ball? And I'm saying it from Joel Embiid to Tobias Harris to guys like Tony Bradley. And that's promising. That's saying something about the mentality of it. Tony Bradley is getting to where he needs to operate on the floor, and he's establishing position without Joel Embiid in the mix, trying to make as much positive noise as he possibly can. Yeah, that really is unreal. And Doc mentioned about getting up and down with pace, making quicker decisions when he was in his post-game press conference. I'm looking for the exact quote out of Doc Rivers, but I'll search it here as we continue to have this conversation. There is a lot to be said about, this is Danny Green talking about how fortunate it is to play with great organizations and coaching, including Doc Rivers. Doc has been great helping us understand what he wants from us every single night. And I think there's so much to be said about just the mentality of Doc Rivers and what he provides. You know, like I mentioned this before, the way that he is constantly coaching up on the bench, and I'll say this once again, because I know I made this specific statement too following that. It's not just a Brett Brown thing. It's around the league. Around the league, you don't see it to the level that Doc Rivers does it. He is fantastic on the bench. I even saw him speaking to Furkan Korkmaz after a play. He talks to Shake Milton, Tyrese Maxey. He even called out Tyrese Maxey a bit. And you finally saw Tyrese Maxey get a little bit of run, which you would expect considering the circumstances. He said he needs more from him defensively, and he's constantly calling guys out. He said that about Matisse Thybulle the other day, and this was before the Bucks game. He said, you owe me one. Matisse Thybulle owes me one, and I really love the messaging out of Doc Rivers. It's hitting well, and I think it's sitting with this team the best possible way that it could. If you could close your eyes and envision Doc Rivers prior to the season even beginning, when you heard the news and you were trying to apply what type of impact he would have with his voice and what he's saying, you would picture this as the ceiling. Everything he's saying, I think it truly is hitting this team perfectly with the right touch, and it's awesome. And I mentioned Furkan Korkmaz. Man, I'll tell you what, airballing shots, and he took a corner three that hit the side of the backboard. Woof! Woof! Out of the Furkan Korkmaz love group. For a team that can't defend the lick, Furkan had a really tough night, clocking in and clocking out. So we'll see how all these players, not just Furkan, we'll see how all these players play against the New York Knicks tomorrow. It looks like Ben Simmons' status is up in the air. So if you're playing a back-to-back without Ben Simmons, it's just another, not milestone, but it's another statement that you can make. It's another statement that you can make. If you're Tobias Harris and you want to show that you do take it personally and it does upset you when people say, oh, they can't win without Ben and Joel, and you want to make sure you put the team on your back and you want to at least be that official guy that shows like, hey, this is still a great team and we are going to battle and I'm going to put this team through war and I'm going to lead them to victory. I'm going to be that top guy that has to come up with buckets, who needs to make the threes, who needs to penetrate, the dribble drive, getting into that paint area. I mean, this Kings team, they can't stop anything in the paint. They can't stop anything out by the perimeter. They can't stop anything. They really can't. And that's why you saw 129 points on their asses. But if you go out without Ben, Joel, and Steph and do this on a second half of a back-to-back, not that the Knicks or the Milwaukee Bucks or the Brooklyn Nets or the Miami Heat or anyone else that is at the top of the Eastern Conference right now, but just knowing that you've played a lot of basketball as of late and knowing that these guys are logging in a ton of minutes, it would be really impressive for me. Because it's easy to have a slip-up. And it makes sense to have a slip-up. If you lose a game against a team that you should be able to beat, it's like the other night, right? The Nets lost to the Orlando Magic. And Sixers Twitter was pissing themselves. Oh, the Nets! I can't believe it! This is when we always generate the similar conversation throughout the 82-game season. Great teams lose to bad teams. Great teams fall eventually. It's reality of the situation. It's not only the Sixers that have a stinker once in a while. It's not only the Sixers that fall to a team that they should be able to destroy. It happens. It's the nature of the beast. It's the nature of the NBA regular season. So it just happened to the Nets. There's going to be a game where it happens to the Sixers. Might it be the second half of a back-to-back against the Knicks? Maybe. But if they do get the victory, it's really telling to me that this team is completely dialed in properly. They're engaged and they're ready to rock no matter who is in their way and no matter who is available. And that's extremely important. Before we get to the text board, we're gonna rock some text today because today the text board was on fire. It's the same phone number, 856-442-9805. So that's the Anytime Hotline number where we normally leave or listen to reactions because people call in after the game and leave their thoughts and opinions. But today, out of nowhere, the text board just took a big time insane jump. So I was like, you know what? Maybe we'll just rock the text board for today's show. But before we do that, a March biggest tournament is finally here. We do not know who will be cutting down the nets at the end, but we do know that there will be no shortage of madness. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is putting new customers in the center of the action. There are so many odds promotions and different sorts of odds boosts throughout March Madness that you cannot miss out on. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Brodes when you sign up. That is promo code Brodes when you sign up for all of the fantastic promotions and odds boost that's happening right now during March Madness. Day one was magnificent. You had upsets. You had a great start with Florida. It started off with Florida in that overtime game, and it just continued throughout the first day. More chalk happening in the early portions of the second day, but all around, it's just been incredible basketball. I missed this. I missed what we saw out of March Madness in college basketball. We didn't get this for a whole damn year. But there's so much more happening if college basketball isn't for you, with hockey, with golf, with baseball starting to come around. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. So the Sixers are getting ready for a little roadie, so we're going to have to keep our eyes on the roadie in general, right? So they're going to be hitting the road and starting to play some teams, so just something to look for, being away from the Wells Fargo Center as the schedule continues. Plus 30. You had players in plus 30 tonight, a lot of them. Danny Green, Tobias Harris. Whew! Talk about domination on both sides of the floor. All right, so how about we now attack the text board? And this is coming from Nick in Philly. Can we believe that Shake Milton is back after what we saw tonight? And Nick, I can't personally. I wish I could. Really, I do. I wish that I could be all sucked into Shake Milton after a really strong game. But I think this is kind of what he is to this point. And I know I'm big on the game logs with Shake Milton specifically, but I think there's a reason why that is. Because it kind of shows his inconsistencies. And I'm going to pull it up again. It does seem like he has been having some of the better nights thrown in there as of late, but it hasn't been to my liking. He had that 26-point performance on March 1st, which was the first day of the month. Thank you, Brodes, for telling me that fantastic information. Then he had the 28-point performance tonight, but other than that, He had 18 points in the game against Washington. He took 14 shots to do it. He was 8 of 14, but he did have 18 points there. He had 15 points against Milwaukee, but he also took 15 shots to do it. Oh, the game log, Brodes, and the efficiency of Shake Milton. It's a combination that we will constantly talk about. It's an equation that will be drilled and discussed nonstop. I hope that this sparks something in Shake Milton, but I just don't know how much of this is him really becoming that player that we need him to be and watching some of these players try and defend. It is a problem. All right, if you're a coach on the other side and you watch your team give that type of effort, I would be so disgusted. I would be so pissed off. Now, De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield did have a stroke at one point where he was cashing in left and right, and you thought that, hey, maybe it would be one of those nights where there is a guard that goes off for 40 against you, because that seems to happen against this Sixers team. Not as much this year, and maybe that has to do with the pick and roll philosophy and all. But look, without Joel Embiid and all, you would think, and without Ben Simmons, you would think that possibly tonight would be the night where it will happen again, considering your lethal defenders aren't there. Matisse was, but you were still missing key contributors on the defensive end, and your biggest rim protector and the defensive player of the year, the best defender in the National Basketball Association. You would think when Buddy Hield gets going and gets into a flow that it would continue all game long to this wild level, but that wasn't necessarily the case. To answer your question, Nick from Philly, I can't believe Shake is back. I need how many games in a row? See, there's a difference because Tobias, and I think there was, yeah, look, oh wow, it almost perfectly worked into flow here, because Tommy M, also from Philadelphia, texted and said, Tobias has been very special, and I'm convinced he can be someone to lean on now. Not always the case prior. And I was going to go in this direction of Tobias and how I'm starting to believe in him. I remember saw a text about him that I pulled, so it kind of makes sense here. With Tobias, he's done it long enough now, all season. There's enough of a sample size this year where I think it's okay to be convinced. I think you should be able to believe in Tobias Harris becoming that player that you can rely on, and you want the ball in his hands to make smart plays, to be quick thinking, and to be able to deliver as well. You can believe in that because there's enough of a window and there's enough results that has already happened where majority of the time he finishes, he closes, he does it all. With Shake Milton, if he does it for 3 games in a row, that's not enough. I'm now convinced about Tobias, but think about how many games it's been to this point. I would have to see it for 15 games, 20 games out of Shake Milton. It can't be 3, 4, 5. I need way more because to this point, it hasn't been good enough. You've already gotten more than half the season or so of this. How many games in are they, actually? I'm thinking, when I say more than game, I'm thinking of the Flyers, because I know that the Flyers are halfway through their season. So they have 30, 43, 42 games in. They're 42 games into a 72-game season. So, yeah, I'm right on that with the 76ers as well. You get so deep into these seasons and so deep into these games and reacting night in and night out that you honestly forget how deep into it you are. You just know you're in that halfway point-ish, and, after the All-Star game, you're on that back stretch. But, yeah, It's to the point with Shake where he would have to do this consistently for the whole rest of the season for me to feel very confident in anything postseason related. But I think that Daryl Morey and the Sixers team is looking to upgrade that spot for sure. And if that's the case, there's a reason why they feel that way. There's a reason why that they are looking in other directions to try and help out with ball handling, to try and help out with scoring off of the bench, because maybe they don't. I'm not saying forever, but I'm saying for right now, maybe they don't fully believe in Shake Milton in that spot right now where he is in his career when the Sixers are arguably making a legitimate NBA championship push. Martin from South Jersey. Should we be concerned with Ben Simmons and this new injury? I don't think so. I don't. I know it was a late scratch, and he's had issues before, and realistically, this has been a problem for this organization. Joel Embiid 1 year, Ben Simmons the next year, Joel Embiid 1 year, Ben Simmons the next year. There does seem to be this trend of these players, when you're really trying to look for cohesiveness, togetherness, flow with the team. Somebody's missing time. Somebody's getting injured. And at the most crucial part, realistically, it's not just the most crucial part. It's throughout an 82-game regular season as a whole. But it does seem to happen where, hey, there's 15 games left, 20 games left. You're trying to make a push to get yourself together and find your identity and find your rotations and figure out what you are going to do. Get everything set in stone. Figure out your set lineups. Figure out your role players. Figure out where everyone is going to play. And that doesn't happen with this organization, it seems. There's always something, whether it's Ben Simmons is back after the fall in the All-Star game, and then he tweaked his back against the Milwaukee Bucks, and then he didn't see him, and then you get swept. Or it's Joel Embiid, and what happened with him, and then he ended up having the mask problem, and then in the playoffs, Markelle Fultz, remember that? Fultz hits him in the eye, and then he has the mask thing on top of other injuries. He's had knee problems. It's over and over and over again. But for this one specifically, I think it's more of a, hey, look, there's some soreness there, back-to-back coming up. You're also going on a road trip. You don't have Joel Embiid. Let's just play it safe. I do think that there's a little bit of your typical 2021 regular season, let's play it safe card happening right now. Let's not push anything. Let's not try and do too much with something that doesn't necessarily need to be pushed. Let's just see if we can win without them. Let's see if we can keep this going. And I guess that's telling you a lot if that is the case, considering, and I'm not trying to say that there's nothing there. There is something there with this injury. This isn't your typical just load management. I think there is some soreness involved, but they don't want to try and go the extra mile. But considering they are fighting for that one seed, and there's not that much of separation, and you know the Brooklyn Nets have been playing better ball, and you know that they're coming, they can smell blood for the top seed. Yeah, it tells you a lot about how they feel with this team being able to hold their own and going up against certain opponents without their top dogs and still being able to execute and find ways to get a W and get another one added to that win column afterwards in the standings. This is from Alex in Westchester. Matisse needs to start! 4 exclamation points. So I figure that's him yelling. Matisse needs to start! Once again, I can't go to that level yet. I can't. Did you see what Danny Green did? There's a reason why. That when everyone's available, it's been the starting 5, that it's been from the jump all season long. Because that's what they're going to rock with. That's what they're going to do. They might have to make an adjustment at some point. They're going to rock with the beginning, starting 5, and from there, they'll see what happens. I don't know if everyone's healthy. That's the big if. If everyone is healthy, I don't know how you look in another direction than what you have in Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Danny Green, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid. This is the same starting 5 that started the season off with an insane record of not losing basketball games. They were constantly winning. They had that donut in the loss column for such a long period of time, and you knew that was going to end. They are a beatable team, but Danny Green's threat of if he can be the player he was tonight, and he can, he's proven it. There's a difference between Shake Milton, going back to this. There's a difference between Shake Milton doing it and then questioning if it's a product of the defense. And then Danny Green, someone who's won multiple championships, was a starter, has an insane career, and has enough to back it up that he can do it against any team. He can do it against any playoff team, a championship team, you name it. Danny Green has already shown you enough that he can do it. So while I look at tonight, and I'll use that to describe why I feel the way that I do against Danny, for me, I can't say, well, Danny Green, he's only doing it because, this team stinks. No, because he's won championships at that position starting for a reason. And it wasn't 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Did it last year. He did it in Toronto. These are recent years. While he's still on that older part of his career, and he's clearly on the downfall, the threat of Danny Green is a huge reason why I can't go to Matisse. It's not really a knock on Matisse, even though his game is limited offensively. And I saw, there was a point, it was about maybe halfway through the third quarter or so, in that range-ish. I'm spitballing in that range-ish. I remember looking at the box score, and I saw that Matisse Thybulle only had 1 3 attempt. He only had like 2 shots, but he was logging in some minutes, and we know what his role is on this team. But I just think in a game like this where it's a 30-point game and your team's shooting lights out from 3 and you're crushing it from the field goal percentage because you're able to dribble and penetrate and get into the paint and kick out when need be and make those shots. Everyone was rolling. You just figured that in a game like this is why I want Matisse to take 5, 6, 7 threes. Take your shots. Take your shots. Now, I'm not saying play bad basketball. I'm not saying take dumb shots to the point where you're going to allow the Kings to get some sort of momentum or advantage because you're relying on Matisse Thybulle just taking shots. I don't want brick after brick after brick after brick after brick and then allow De'Aaron Fox or some of these Kings players to score points and crack into the lead. That's not what I'm saying. But there was times that he didn't make them, but he was at least starting to take more of them as the game. After I noticed that he did start to take a couple more in the corner. He did miss, but it's just about the mentality of, dude, just shoot, man. Shoot. Try and get yourself into some sort of confidence here and just shoot. Shoot as much as you can, especially in a 30-point blowout where you know it's not as important as back end of a third quarter, two-point game against a top-tier team. This is the time to take your chances. This is the time to take your shots. If they're open, and they were open. I know you can get shots where you are open. Take those. Just take as many as you possibly can because you need to. And that's pretty much it for this game. It was a blowout. It was one of those where it's tough to stay fully engaged in because they were just running away with it and they were constantly just making awesome plays. But one of those hey, they just handle business. Wash your hands off and move on to the next one kind of thing. But entertainment value, obviously, not as much there. Before I let you guys go, I need to tell you about DeSimone Jewelers. They are outstanding. And I went to them for my fiance's engagement ring, and you should have saw her face when I opened up that box on one day. She was blindfolded in our backyard. We just purchased our house. We were making settlement. We went into the backyard. She took the blindfold off, and here I am on one knee, and she almost fell over. And it wasn't because she was shocked that she had to spend the rest of her life with me. It was because of the bling of this damn diamond. I also went back to DeSimone Jewelers for Christmas, for her birthday, and she loves every piece of jewelry that I get there. They're a family-owned business with over 40 years of experience. They moved from Jewelers Row to Haddonfield, New Jersey. They don't use sale tactics. They show you options and they educate their customers. They treat their customers like family. DeSimone Jewelers customizes and manufactures every ring they make from start to finish right there on location. And because of that, they're able to beat competitors' prices. I've sent so many family members in their direction. They all say the same thing. Brodes, they're unbelievable. You'll see exactly what I mean. Tell them Brodes sent you. More information is down below in the description. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.